Welcome to the Tough Decisions Network for Entrepreneurs. I'm Dan Hanford, and my wife, Danae, and I interview successful people sharing stories behind tough decisions that they've had to make along their journey as an entrepreneur. Before we get started, let's hear from one of our sponsors. Have you ever thought about investing in real estate, but find yourself so busy that you don't have time for it? Do you have FOMO, which is the fear of missing out? At HanfordCapital.com, we help investors with passive real estate investments that project better returns than traditional investment vehicles such as the stock market. If you'd like to find out more about our passive real estate investments, visit HanfordCapital.com. That's HANDFORD Capital.com. We will jump on a call with you to discuss your investment goals and to see if our investments are a good fit for you. This advertisement is not to be construed as an offer or recommendation to buy or sell a security. Visit HanfordCapital.com.
On the podcast today, we have with us Jason Yarusi. He is a business owner and real estate investor. He also hosts the podcast Real Estate Investing Foundation. So Jason, thank you for being with us. We're looking forward to talking with you today.
Dan, Danae, thank you so much for having me.
Well, Jason, what I want you to do is kind of walk us through your background a little bit and maybe what your current focus is right now.
Sure. So I come from a construction background of four to five generations of family that's been in heavy construction, with our focus being on lifting and moving buildings for about the last 45 years. Parlayed with that, I've taken on a number of other ventures, from opening restaurants to opening a brewery. And also today, we actually flip homes here locally in New Jersey in 2 counties. And then we buy multifamily in the Midwest.
So it sounds to me like your focus is everywhere, actually, because you have so many different things. Do you still have the brewery, and do you still have the other venture?
The restaurant, helped open, helped format it, helped put it all together and get the process running. And at this point, I am only a silent partner. My other partner runs the whole operation. So that's the good news. He does a great job pushing it in New York City and really takes the reins with that. The brewery would be what I would talk about today. When I moved from the city back out to New Jersey, I sold off a big portion of the brewery. My partner and I decided that was the best time, so we sold it off back in 2016. We still own a small portion of it as brand ambassadors for the business.
Okay. Well, walk us through a tough decision or decisions that you've had to make along this journey that you've had as an entrepreneur.
Well, there's always tough decisions. Today, I'm going to focus on actually selling the brewery, and why that seems like a great thing. I loved it. I loved putting a brand together. We loved building it from absolutely nothing, from actually our kitchen all the way to a brand that was pretty much all throughout New York State in 1,000 bars, doing kegs, cases all over town, from being in top 10 restaurants and everything, and just making that choice just really for myself and being able to have the best time focus, and then also for the brand.
And so what are some of the lessons that you learned through that selling of the brewery? And would you say that decision was a good decision, or would you say it was a not so good decision?
It's still in the works. The direction of the brewery is going in a very, very good way. Of course, when you sell a business, it's like your baby. So you have a vision, and ultimately that vision doesn't always carry over for the group that buys it, especially when you stay in it. And you can have a say, however, but you do have to be open to other scenarios just to understand what their model is going to be with the brand. And for them, the brewery that did buy us actually had just sold their local New York brewery to a bigger outfit. So they were looking to get their footprint back in New York City, and we filled that void. They were looking to ramp in a different direction just in terms of marketing, where we were really grassroots, using our business background and just our relationships we built in the bar industry. And they were looking to just catch a more focused, targeted niche of bars and restaurants in the city.
I want to dive a little bit on the baby aspect of, we always talk about our business as being our another child, and our baby. And I think sometimes business owners and entrepreneurs get so attached to their business, and because it is, like you said, it was your baby, and you had to make it that tough decision of letting your baby go, and you wouldn't sell your child, So walk us through that thought process that you went through to finally make that decision to, part ways, not obviously completely, but, obviously parting ways with probably the controlling interest of an entity that you created as, your own.
It was a point here where I was heading back out to New Jersey to really take the full reins of running the construction business. We were in a very, very busy time coming off the aftermath of Hurricane Sandy. And that culminated with us really jumping into our real estate business and starting that full force. And it's just that realization that I'm not going to be able to do everything and really trying to do all this. I'm not going to do something well. And noting that the brewery, I was distant from the brewery at this point, being out of state, even if I'm just in New Jersey, which is really just not that far away, it was not going to get the focus it needed. Plus, with that point, a big thing is about partnership. When you do form a partnership and create a brand, it can be very tricky because you're starting a partnership with an individual and you may have focus, but that focus may change over time. And my partner with the brewery, his focus and my focus were not aligning. And we realized that this was becoming a point of contention. And at that point, noting where the brewery was, and just we had to make a pretty quick decision of where it was going to be. So we really didn't just be more of a detrimental factor to the brand. And that was really just a sticking point there. It was too many things going in too many directions. We knew something had to get cut loose. And although we loved this business and we loved the model and we knew it was something that really can be and will continue to be successful, it was now becoming a very dense area in New York City. When we started back in 2009, we were one of maybe a handful. We're the only New York City actually in the borough of Manhattan brewery. But by the time we had jumped out, it was flooded. So it was just that time to actually, a lot of things kind of aligned for us to jump out.
And what was your deciding factor to try to, instead of just trying to sell the entire thing off, to actually can still kind of keep in control, not really control, but keeping some interest or equity in the business?
It was an ask from the buyers, really, that culminated.
The buyers asked you?
They did. They wanted us to stay in. I think I would have probably even sold on that point, but we had built a pretty aggressive reach with our brand. We had opened restaurants before, worked in the bar industry for a while, so we knew a lot of people in the industry, and those handshake relationships just to get in the door in New York City in a competitive environment really got us a far way. And he, especially with some of the bigger establishments there, and the owners or the buyers actually just asked us to stay on to see if we can still cultivate those relationships, and we'd be happy to, and we've been happy to do it so far.
So I'm sure I'm just going to shift a little bit here. I'm sure as you've started, to do some real estate, you're still, like you said, you're still in that heavy construction company with your family and things like that. What are some tough decisions that, are a tough decision that you've had to make during that process as well?
Well, construction is never easy, especially in the business we're in. And when you take that and then it's a family environment with a bunch of Italians, you can imagine that decisions are not always as clean as they can be. So it's really just taking processes that were started, back to my grandfather through my father to today, just having that environment where we may see an easier model and you're having conflict between the old way and the new way. And to get that point across with someone who's been successful and done it for a very long time, you have to tread delicately because you don't want to quote unquote offend them. However, you do want to make this a more conforming business and a more productive business.
Mm-hmm. And so I want you to kind of talk to us about, obviously, as a multiple streams of income entrepreneur that you are, having your hands in various different pots, which I think is great. That's one of the things that can, mitigate a lot of, stress, and, the financial stress is being able to have an income from multiple sources. Can you share with us something that you like to do when you face a tough decision?
It's funny, you need to react quick, but you can't react quickly. So basically your first reaction is generally not your best reaction. It's 5 minutes of just sitting there, taking a deep breath, understanding all the factors and what will be the ramifications from your action. And lots of times you don't have time to wait, especially if we're moving a building and lifting a house and we need a quick answer on something. We need to look at it and just be patient with our answer. But again, that noting that you need to make a quick decision.
Jason, is there a book or a resource that you'd recommend to our listeners as something that's helped you in the way that you make decisions or the way that you run your business?
I'm actually reading, I guess it's just top of mind, Sam Zell's Am I Being Too Subtle has been pretty interesting to just listen to that book on Audible. He's been extremely successful, and just the way he's handled things coming from such a difficult upbringing to where he is today. It's just incredible.
So I want to shift gears here just a little bit, Jason, and I want to talk a little bit about the money that you've made right now as an entrepreneur and what are some of the things that you've done with it. Are there any exciting places that you have traveled or items that you have purchased up to this point with the money that you've made as an entrepreneur?
So we have 2 young kids, another baby that's going to be here in 2 weeks. So
congratulations.
Thank you so much. So that keeps us full. But my wife grew up in Hawaii, and pretty much the majority of her family is still there. So we enjoy getting to Hawaii twice a year to see her family. And actually, we have the luxury of having her mom and dad here right now, visiting just for about a month, just to see the new baby be born. And we'll be back there in December. So that's always a highlight, getting out there to see so much family, especially my wife not being able to see them so frequently and living so far away.
So was that a tough decision to have them come live with you for a month?
Easy. Yeah, I've had we actually had 12 cousins here about like 3 weeks ago that were out here visiting.
Wow.
So I'm cool with it. It's fun. I've lived in, I feel, so many different lives over the point that there could be worse things, right?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I wanted you to kind of talk to us a little bit about your vision board and your bucket list and kind of tell us what's that number one item on your list right now?
Honestly, right now, I'm just focusing on my time. The time, especially now, gets chewed up so quickly in the day with so many things happening and with construction being so much of a focus, that I'm just trying to allocate my resources so I can really have a better system of processing. And Peely and I are just constantly working on our systems because we were never good at that, and it was always something that we lacked at. And just realizing with so many moving components, we just had to have everything broken down so we weren't wasting time having to just find how we did something prior. And that can be from pretty much, if we're building houses, just replicating on what we've used for materials, trades, just in points of knowing our price points, to having systems for management companies when we have apartment buildings of how we want them to do turns, for construction, for how we're handling pre-site meetings, to actually safety meetings the day of the operation, to setting up to lift the house, to having production meetings prior to lowering the house back down, just the route we take.
Can you talk to us about what are some of the things you're doing to put those systems in place? Because, we hear all the time about put the systems in place, put the procedures and processes in place. I've done that a lot in my businesses, but I'm curious, what are some things that you guys are working on to actually put those systems and procedures and processes in place in your business to make your life easier?
Sure. Would it be more beneficial to talk from a real estate aspect or construction aspect?
Either one.
Okay. Let's take real estate. We do a lot of direct marketing. And so for that point, in terms of course, mailing and also pay-per-click, it is having a setup system. So as we are sending the mailing out, we have a tracking system for the phone numbers for which that mailing is coming back. And in terms of that mailing, we have a setup system for how the calls are getting answered live. And if it's not getting answered live, it's going to a backup call center that's taking that anticipation of setting up appointment. From there, we're tracking how many calls we're getting, to how many appointments getting, to how many contracts we're getting, to how many closings we're getting. So we can basically filter in how our process is working and what needs to basically be teetered with, or where we should put our energy. Where, I guess, example is, if we're getting 10 times more calls from direct marketing than we're getting from pay-per-click, maybe we need to double down on direct mail.
Yeah, and one thing I would caution you on when you're doing that is, because I've had these very same conversations, these very same thoughts that have come up as far as that marketing is concerned. Even though one marketing piece might pull better than another one, that doesn't mean you stop the other one. It means, Correct. Like you said, you double down on the one that's really doing well. And you just put more money and more cash into that process. But you still need to have multiple. Just like you want to have multiple streams of income, you want to have a multimodal approach to your marketing efforts, so that, because some months, some marketing pieces that do really well don't do as well. But you want to have these multiple pieces of advertising that are constantly bringing in these new leads, whether it's real estate or, any other type of business, whether you're selling granite or you're doing plumbing services or, whatever the case is, you want to make sure you have that multiple streams of, new patient or new customer flow coming through the door.
Yeah, and with that, just noting what works for your area too. With a big group of flippers in the country, and some markets, things predominantly work better. Where we have friends in Pennsylvania, and bandit signs work tremendously well for them. In the market we're in here, they don't really do us the service. So there are certain marketing, but you do have to be diverse with your doing what you're marketing. And of course, really just keep carrying and tracking what you're doing. And that's where really the money's made, is tracking what you're doing. You can do 100 different types of marketing, but if you're not tracking what's working, then you're just throwing things out to the wind and hoping.
Do you have a particular software or service that you use to keep track of, the leads that are coming in or the phone calls that are coming in, so you can kind of keep, I have some that I use, but I'm just curious what ones that you use.
Sure. Yeah, we use CallRail. Basically,
yes.
Then through our answering service is Keener, and from there everything gets uploaded into Investor Fuse, which is basically like a ramped up Podio, which is a CRM system. And Investor Fuse has an automated follow-up system where they have suggested follow-ups, or you can actually create your own follow-ups, which will ultimately send out text messages, ringless voicemail, emails to people who may not be potential sellers at the time, but maybe potential sellers, 5, 6, 7 contacts later. And you could set that system up to do it every 1 week, every 10 weeks, however you deem fit.
Who do you use for your call center services?
That would be Keener.
Keener. Okay. So they're the ones that the phone call comes in through the CallRail phone number that keeps track of the where their leads are coming from. It gets sent to Keener. Keener is the one who answers the phone calls in their call center and kind of manages it from that standpoint.
Yeah, we actually have a lead manager, and she works certain hours to take the calls live. And then if she is either on a call or it's outside of her time frame of taking the calls, then it will jump onto Keener, and Keener will pick up anything from there. We prefer to have it picked up live, although Keener does do a great job. We provide them with script, and they follow a script to a T.
Okay, so your in-house lead manager is who you would funnel the phone call through first, but if for some reason she's busy during office hours, or if it's outside of office hours, then it would go to Keener.
Exactly.
Got it. That's great. I love that system. You got a great system in place there. And biggest thing with systems is always constantly watching them and monitoring them and making sure that they're producing the results that you're looking for, and constantly shifting them and changing them as you progress through your growth strategy.
Absolutely.
Well, Jason, I really do appreciate your time being on the podcast with us today. How can the listeners reach out to you and find out some more information about you and start to follow you some more?
Sure. Thank you so much for having me. You can reach out to us at www.yarusi, holdings.com, or email me at jason@yarusiholdings.com. And on our website, you can find a bunch of resources, including our podcast, the Real Estate Investing Podcast with Jason and Peely.
Well, thank you again so much. I hope you have a good rest of your day. Thank you for listening to the Tough Decisions Network. Be sure to visit toughdecisions.net to gain access to show notes for this episode and to join our free weekly entrepreneur email, where we will send you news about the latest technology for your business, inspiring quotes, and the latest books for entrepreneurs. That's toughdecisions.net.